Alright, hello everyone and welcome to WWE Discussion. I'm your host and WWE enthusiast Dougie, and today's episode I'm going to be discussing NXT September 12th edition of NXT was stacked. Hyped as one of the biggest nights in NXT history. Becky Lynch would return to challenge for the NXT Women's Championship, and the next #1 contender to the NXT Championship would be determined. The Global Heritage Cup would continue to roll on and continue to impress in Week 3. Tyler Bate would compete in his first match of the tournament against Axiom, and Nathan Frazier would take on Akira Tozawa. NXT hoped to deliver one of the biggest shows possible, but could the talent live up to the hype? The answer to that question is yes, they could. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action. Starting with a #1 contenders match for the NXT Championship, Ilya Dragunov versus Wesley. And unsurprisingly, these guys kicked off the show right. This was a memorable athletic clash that showed what makes both of these guys special talents. While Dragunov needed to win, Lay did enough to tease that he could pull off the upset. Melo has told the story that the only man he needs to prove himself against is the Mad Dragon. The two had a great match at Great American Bash. Round 2 could be even better if these two are able to sell a fresh story for their sequel over the next 2 weeks. So yes, at No Mercy, it will be Dragunov versus Hayes 2. This should be a good one. And as for Wesley, well, what does the future hold for him? He was seen cleaning out his lockers and basically sounded like he's walking away from NXT. So Wesley pulls a Cora Jade and basically seemingly quits NXT. Cora Jade has not been seen since, so Wesley's probably going to go on a bit of a hiatus. But I guess the question is, when does he turn up next? And where will he turn up next? Global Heritage Cup, Tyler Bate versus Axiom, and Axiom has been the Global Heritage Invitational MVP because he has had the 2 best matches of the tournament so far. He and Bates had chemistry to spare in this battle that showed in every move. Unfortunately, Axiom is likely out of the running now, even if he beats Charlie Dempsey. The final 2 of Group 2 is down to Bate versus Butch next week. That should be a special match given their history. The big strong boy has a win over Noam Dar already, so perhaps so it would make sense if he is the next challenger for the Heritage Cup. However, Butch in NXT is a novelty that has not been explored enough recently, so perhaps they give him the win and have him challenge Noam Dar for the Heritage Cup. By the way, it has been fun. Speaking of Butch being a novelty, it has been fun watching Butch compete in NXT once again. Would be nice though if he could go back to the Pete Dunne moniker, but oh well, he makes it work. Creed Brothers versus Malik Blade and Idris and Nafe, and everyone involved knew they were pressed for time, so they made the most of it. This was a tag team showcase, no time for isolating an opponent. Each tagged and set up a big team move. It was a rush sprint of a match, but certainly an exciting one. Everyone involved can do more with time, but it is hard to fault any of them for what they did with 4 minutes. The tag team division is a bit of a mess to keep organized, but there is plenty of talent to showcase. The Creed Brothers at the moment have the most credibility of anyone outside of the current champions. Whether or not that translates into another title match, or whether or not that means they're up next for a title match, remains to be seen. But yeah, Creed Brothers back in full force in NXT. NXT Women's Championship match, Tiffany Stratton versus Becky Lynch, and this was an absolute war. It was not always the prettiest as these two learned to work together, but they made the most of the spotlight to sell this as the biggest match of Stratton's career. And while NXT has certainly put some significant hype behind Stratton, pitting her against Lynch made her the underdog, as the man is arguably the most popular woman in WWE, and he's coming off a huge win against Trish Stratus. That played out in this match. Lynch gave Stratton the spotlight to show off her talent before reminding her that she was just too big. Lynch is just too big for Stratton to beat right now, and now that Lynch is the new NXT Women's Champion, she can elevate this women's division, and I think you can make the case that the NXT Women's Division is not only in a better spot than Raw and SmackDown's Women's Division, but it's also it's been booked better than the NXT Women's Division. And if Lynch being champion leads to Lynch versus Perez at No Mercy, I'm all for that. Give me Lynch versus Perez at No Mercy. So in conclusion, NXT promised a massive event and largely delivered. The opener main event was advertised. Dragunov and Lee performed at their highest level with the time they had. They sold the importance of becoming number one contender for the NXT Championship. Becky Lynch pushed Tiffany Stratton to main roster relevance by the end of the match, and perhaps Stratton is ready for the big time. As for the man, now that she is NXT Women's Champion, she can lead the women's division to heights it has not seen in years. The rest of the card was solid though often rushed. The best match across the rest of the card was Tyler Bate versus Axiom. The problem of NXT remains the need to overload the card. Too many potential good matches get 3 to 4 minutes at a time. The stories, though, continue to advance in interesting ways. NXT is on a hot streak, and this was the best non-themed NXT show of 2023. The stage has been set for an exciting No Mercy in just over 2 weeks. And with that, that will conclude this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.